First it was the cheese book tag, then the cookie book tag, then the butter book tag, and most recently the pasta book tag. And now I'm introducing the fifth and newest foodie book tag to the Booktube community, the Cannoli book tag. Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I am here with a new foodie book tag. This new foodie book tag is the Cannoli book tag, and it stems from my lifelong passion and desire for the great Italian pastry. Keep in mind that cannoli is actually a plural term. Usual Italian foods or Italian words that end with the letter I are usually plural. So ravioli is plural. The singular would be cannolo or raviolo. And lasagna is another one. Lasagna is a singular sheet of pasta. Lasagne is the layered treat. But the way that this is going to work is I'm going to be sharing parts of, or that can be parts of the cannoli, and I created questions in that manner. I think that once you follow along, you'll get the gist of what's to come, and I will leave questions. I will leave the questions down below. The first one is the shell. Which author and or publisher comes out with the best covers? There's a lot of ways that can be answered, but I would say that the one that appeals to me the most are Stephen King's Signet paperback covers, which they look a bit like this, and you have the Signet, which looks a little bit like a colorless version of the Pepsi logo. This here is the cover for Kuja, which pretty much tells you a lot. Being trapped in a car and having a monstrous dog right in your reflective mirror that is looking for some vengeance and some blood. Another example is for a Thinner, which Stephen King wrote as Richard Bachman. And the idea of being a relatively heavy-set person becoming thinner beyond belief. This really speaks 1,000+ words. Gives you an idea. It doesn't spoil anything, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. And another example, It. You have, if you've seen the movie at the very beginning, young boy was playing with his newspaper sailboat, and you see Pennywise the Clown residing in the sewer. That kind of sticks out, and the idea of grabbing for something into the sewer and having a clown, of all things, going after you is quite frightening. The next one is the cannoli cream, perhaps the most beloved part of the cannoli. An author or writer that is good at anything they write, and for that I chose John Grisham. I've read 4 things from him that range from his usual legal thriller. I read a non-fictional legal thriller in The Innocent Man, Murder and Justice in a Small Town, and I read a book of his he wrote about football in Playing for Pizza. And he's coming out with something new, that I'm really looking out for, and that is The Tumor, which is about a guy who has a brain tumor that ends up killing him. And then they have an alternate story about 10 years later, and they have these medical devices, tools, practices that can prevent something of that caliber. And it's really thought-provoking and appealing because reminds me of the cyber knife that somebody had brought up where I work. She has this thrift store that she sells secondhand clothes and furniture, and the money that she raises goes to the local efforts in putting together and bringing in a cyber knife, which is worth a lot of money. It's not what you would think as a knife, but it is this practice where it's much easier to complete a procedure and go directly after the tumor or the cancerous growth without having to damage anything else, even if it is unharmed. But I'm getting a little bit off topic, but it goes to show you that John Grisham is willing to explore anything and everything, and the things that he does explore, he does an outstanding job with the research, and he puts everything into what he writes, and it's always a delightful read. Next one is chocolate chips. A trope you believe always seems to work. And for this one, I chose the person you don't expect committing the crime, or anything among when it comes to twists and turns, because unpredictability is a no-lose situation, I would say. I think there are moments where people can disagree, and there are probably instances where something is so poorly written that something that is supposed to be a twist is obvious, but I feel that when you least expect something, it contributes to being a part of the reading experience. And I just finished reading The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and while I easily predicted what was going to happen, a lot of people did not. And I feel that figuring these things out is always a part of how people perceive things, and unpredictability and twists and turns are not love triangles, so you don't have to worry about that one. For the record, if you know me well enough, I do not like love triangles because I feel that they do not make sense. The next one is chocolate covering. A cover you felt was much better than the story, and for that I chose something I do not have with me, and that is Cat Magic by Whitley Strieber. I picked it up at the library because I felt that the cover was really appealing, and I also felt that the plot was quite interesting. However, it turned out to be this nonsensical mess that turned into some kind of Wiccan story time, and they dismissed the original story once they had the opportunity to do so, and it was just, it's something I do not wish to get back to. Next one is powdered sugar. Where do you look first at a bookstore? And for me, it all depends. It all depends on my mood, what I'm looking for, and which bookstore I'm going to. At Barnes & Noble, I tend to look for the poetry section first, but if I'm not necessarily familiar, I tend to check out what they have in the highlights, and then I go right for the literature and fiction section. At the Bookworm, I tend to check out the general literary fiction first. And for everything else, it just all depends on what I've seen there before, and also it all depends on my mood. When I first go into a bookstore, I just look at the first area that appeals to me. So it always changes. Next one is dates. A work you enjoyed but question its adaptation, as in a film adaptation, a play adaptation, etc. And I put this in because first time I came across dates in my cannoli, first time I came across dates in my canola, I was wondering, well, is this something that you do? It was something I was questioning. And when I did some research, I found out that the original cannoli in Sicily was actually included dates and other dried fruit. So the one that I chose for that is Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I really was hooked. I was hooked to this book. I enjoyed reading it. But when I watched the film, after I watched The Da Vinci Code, they rearranged it so that it was more of a sequel, and they eliminated one of the most crucial characters in Maximilian Kohler. I was really looking forward to seeing how he was going to be adapted, but they took another direction and cut him out completely, which I wasn't too pleased about. Next one is Pistachios. A work or author you enjoy but feel is for an acquired taste. And for that I chose Robert Walser, who is a Swiss writer who wrote Jacob von Gutten, which was one of my favorite novels in the year in which I read it. I feel that when you are approaching Walser's work, you really need to do so with an open mind. And while you may question what he's saying and doing, it all makes sense at the end, and it's really quite enlightening. That's how it was with Jacob von Gutten, and his microscripts that he wrote, while one may question the meaning behind them, when you have the historical context and put that into account, it's quite extraordinary what literature can be and how far its limits can reach. The next one is the mini cannoli. A short story writer or poet you want to recommend. And one that I cannot recommend enough is Ko-un, a Korean poet who I feel deserves his chance at the Nobel Prize in Literature. His works are short snippets, and yet they're so beautiful. I've mentioned him time and again on this channel, and I really think that you should go and pick up This Side of Time. The next one is Lemon Zest, an author or writer that you feel has the greatest way with words. And while there are so many choices that I can select and share with you, today I'm going to choose Vladimir Nabokov. And his most familiar reason would be the fact that he wrote Lolita. And it would be so easy for an author or writer to damage their reputation by creating an anti-hero out of a pedophile, which it was just an older man who had an attraction to a specific 12-year-old girl. But the language and the way that he wrote this was definitely attention-grabbing to the point that people were reading and discussing what he wrote. It's something that I need to read, but I know the background from those who have read it. He was also one of the most renowned English and literature professors that many of honorable people have had the opportunity to take his classes and listen to him lecture. He's definitely someone I want to read more of, and I think Lolita is going to be one of the obvious choices as to what I should get to. Next one is cinnamon. A tip you have for being a better reader. I feel that when it comes to approaching reading and becoming a more avid reader, you have to start by reading what you enjoy. I feel that when you are jumping into what you feel you have to read, or obviously what you are assigned to read, that's not going to create a passion for reading. Starting with what you enjoy, whether it be a genre that catches your attention or an area that interests you, then you're reading up on something that you're already interested in, and you're able to develop thoughts a bit better. From there, you work your way toward where you want to go. And you work toward broadening your horizons. If something attracts you, whether it be within that small circle or a little bit further out, go right ahead and explore. And then just keep broadening that horizon until you are where you want to be. Because reading does not mean that you have to. Having a passion for reading does not mean you have to enjoy every genre in the land, because there are areas that people are not going to enjoy. And you should just have a range that works for you, because the only person you really need to satisfy is yourself. And if you're doing something like operating a Booktube channel or a book blog, you're going to find people that have common interests with you, and picking up a following and picking up friends is going to come naturally. The next one is The Godfather, a book with multiple deaths, which you should answer being as spoiler-free as possible. And for that, I chose Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. I feel that I'm not going to tell you who died and where these deaths took place, but there was a lot of them, and I almost feel that it was forced. I feel that Suzanne Collins was trying to be effective with trying to kill off as many characters as she possibly could in order to deliver a more popcorn movie kind of feeling into the reader. And I felt that it was overdone. And the last one is Dessert Tray. Who do you tag? I'm going to tag 10 people since this is the first of its kind. You can tag as many people as you'd like. I'm going to start by tagging Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf, who has done my 4 others. Another one that has done my 4 other foodie book tags is Grace from Grace Libby, and I will tag you to do this tag. Alyssa from Sushi Dragon Master, who has done 3 out of the 4. Conrad from The Deckled Edge, because he did part of the pasta book tag. While you didn't finish your dinner, Conrad, I hope you finish your dessert, and I'm going to tag you. Rosie from Rosie Reads, because I want to give her some inspiration as to what she should go over on her channel, and I hope you are able to fulfill this book tag. Michelle from Michelle's Life. Adrian and Dalton from Strip Covered Lit. Julia from Simply Jules. Steve from Steve Donahue, because I do not want to snub you like I did with the pasta book tag, even though I want to, on occasion, change up the people I tag directly. But even if I don't tag you, I highly encourage you to complete these tags that I bring into the community. And Michaela and/or Gretchen from Michaela Rashilla. And either one, the other, or both of you are welcome to do this tag. I would really be interested in checking it out any which way. Thank you for tuning in to the Cannoli book tag. I hope you tune in for some more videos. I hope you go and enjoy a cannoli. And as always, I encourage you to keep reading.